Hi, my name is Kyle Monahan, and I'm going to take you through how to install deep learning frameworks for ArcGIS. So if you haven't installed ArcGIS, you should make sure that it's installed. You can search for it on a Windows 10 computer by going down to your program and typing Arc, and ArcGIS Pro should appear. If you don't have access to ArcGIS Pro, I suggest you reach out to your employer or educational institution for access. It is a paid program, so if you don't have the money to pay for it or don't have access to someone who has a license, you can use QGIS for these types of things. And I'll make another video if you're interested on how to use QGIS. So you want to install deep learning frameworks for ArcGIS. We want to do some deep learning here. And so if you open up ArcGIS and you were to try, say, to run this command conda create in the Python interpreter, well, that won't work because this is not Python. We need to open a command prompt, not Python, but a command prompt that is linked to the version of Python that ArcGIS is able to access. And so by default, if I wanted to say install Python, I need to run it at the command prompt on a Windows. And so this command here, if you haven't used this before, ArcGIS Pro uses Anaconda Python to do its Python. We want to ask Conda to create a new environment called deep learning, -- name deep learning. And we want it to clone the existing environment ArcGIS Pro Python 3. If you run this, Conda will say, okay, I understand that you want to create a new environment called deep learning and clone that. Now, by default, here's one issue. If you run this, you might find, as I did, that the default Python is not, the default Conda is not Python's Conda. And this isn't described very well in the documentation. I have a different version of Anaconda Python that is defaulted here. So we need to tell the command prompt which Conda we want. Which Conda do we want to work with? And there are ways that we can do that by telling it which Conda, where to find that Conda. And the place normally that I suggest you to look for the Conda, so let's go to our File Explorer together. We're going to open up the location for where Conda is, or for where ArcGIS Pro is first. So we go to C, Program Files, ArcGIS Pro, bin, Python, and in here we see scripts. And here we see Conda exe. So this is actually what we're referring to when we talk about Conda. So our full command would then have to be, and I'll put this in the description as well, /conda, right? And then we pass Conda these commands. Let me just format font. I'll do this at 20 so you can see it. I'm also going to word wrap. And so you can see we have the location of Conda, create, name, deep learning, clone, ArcGIS Pro PY3. So now we try this, and this is correctly telling it where Conda is. Oh, and another issue, by default, we either need to wrap this in strings or escape out all of these slashes. This is something particular to using the Python or the command prompt here that we're using. If we were in PowerShell, we wouldn't necessarily need to do this. Oh, also didn't like that, so I'm going to give it a slash here because I'm giving it a path, and it's just a little confused about what type of path I'm giving it. So now I have that as a string, create, and now it's identified the paths. You can see that program files had a space in it, so I had to string it out. And here we go. It is now creating our deep learning module. So see how I troubleshooted all this, and I finally got it to tell it which ArcGIS Pro one I wanted and to create this new module. And then once we're done, and this is the same with any environment in Python, we want to activate deep learning. And I'll put all these in the description of this video, so you can just copy and paste right from the video. I would create a script for you to make this a little easier, but honestly, I think it's better that you run these line by line to make sure there's no issues, and also that you get a feel for what it's like to install these packages. In addition, if I were to give you a script, it might not work on your machine. There are a lot of details about how these Python programs are installed, and so it's better for, I think, you to go through this on your own. And I will go through this right now. I haven't done it on this machine before, so excitingly, you will see me do this on this machine for the first time, which should be a nice way to show you how I troubleshoot as well. One of the things I like to do is show you the process for troubleshooting these things, because it is fairly challenging, and I want you to know that you can do this, right? That it's possible. I know it might be your first time going into these things, but don't worry too much. We'll be able to get through this together. So I'm going to use the hashtag sign to, or maybe the double slash sign to comment. And so in this case, I'm going to say set up Conda environment, and this only needs to be run once. Once you've run this, it will be there. This only also needs to be run once. Activate the environment. And now I do have a walkthrough on my same channel about how to get started with environments for data science. So if you're interested, you can take a look at that video. But what all that environments are doing is a separate spot for you to have all of the packages that you commonly use for, say, GIS or data science, that you can just keep using. It's very convenient. So the next suggestion I have is, well, I guess grab some coffee while you wait for this to complete. In general, Anaconda does take some time, especially the ArcGIS library to copy everything over. This is one of the longer processes, actually. But it should continue on. Let's see, so 113 packages we're probably moving on through. And so while we're waiting, I can go through a little bit about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So if in case you haven't used Conda, or we can say Conda create, right? And so if I go to the documentation for Conda create, you can see here how it says Conda create. We can clone, which is what we're doing. And if we go down to clone, path to name of existing local environment. I realized that I probably shouldn't be running ArcGIS when this is running. Maybe this will help it. Yeah. All right, looks like it was okay. It's potential that, okay, it validated it. Excellent. So now we can activate the environment. Looks like it had some issue before. where it ran into some problems, I think because I was running ArcGIS Pro. That's probably not a good plan. So I'll put a note at the top to close ArcGIS Pro at the top. All right, so now it says to activate deep learning. So we should activate this command, and note that also at the end of this it says to activate this environment, you can just activate deep learning. And so we activate it. Oh, interestingly, it couldn't find it. Oh, but that's because we actually have to, we can't use the default activate. We actually have to give it the entire path to activate. So in the same way that we before gave it the entire path to conda, we have to give it the entire path to activate. And so I just can copy this path and paste it like so. And remember before we had to wrap that in quotes. So I'm going to wrap this in quotes as well. I'm going to tell to my command line, find this activate. Don't use the traditional one that might be on your path. Now you could, if you wanted to, change the path to direct to ArcGIS Pro's Anaconda. You might think you want to do that, but that's actually not a good plan because by default, ArcGIS Pro, at least on this version in June 2020, is not, you cannot change it. You can't add new packages to the default environment. So you should not do that. That's why Arc doesn't let you do that, or ArcGIS Pro doesn't let you do that. So you should really use this approach for now. Now I heard in the new version that the files will be editable, or the packages will be editable. If that's true, then you can go that way. But until then, let's stick with this. So now we have a terminal in the context, in the environment of deep learning. And I'm going to copy over these and we will install each of these, hoping that everything works okay. I will admit that at least on a Mac, which is my main machine, the ability to install packages on Anaconda takes a bit of time. So feel free to grab some coffee while you wait for this. It does take some time to solve the specifications. And then you'll need to click Proceed. I'm just saying that yes, you can in fact do this. Note that the CUDA toolkit is being installed. In case you haven't used that, that allows you to write CUDA code, which is NVIDIA, a graphics driver's proprietary code. And it's nice to have. TensorFlow is also a really excellent machine learning library. Well, it does a lot of things, but it's a really nice thing to have. So this stack is going to be great to use. So let's, while we're waiting here. So we already went through Conda Create, and we already went through here. And so now we're just installing all of and I'll just pause the video while these install. All right, so I did have a little bit of a issue with my Wi-Fi actually, but it did eventually complete. So like I said, you know, grab a cup of coffee and continue on through it. So we've done the first one, TensorFlow GPU, and the next one on the line is the Keras GPU. And so if I wanted to, I can actually test what I last did by pressing the up key on my keyboard. I can see my history. So I'm going to paste conda install Keras GPU. You'll note that because I've activated the environment, I don't need to continuously keep saying where conda is. It knows. All right, so it'll be another minute or so here of installing Keras. So first it solves. So conda has its own package solver. And so first it solves the specification. I have to click yes to proceed. And then this one's a little bit faster, which is nice. All right. Now I can install like so. And scikit image is a nice image processing. So if you ever want to learn about any of these, you can just look up image processing in Python. It's pretty nice. All of these packages have documentation. So if you click on overview, you can get a feel for what they're doing. It's built on scipy.ndimage. It's very nice. Great for image processing. And a lot of this, and I'm just going to do yes, a lot of this will be built on image processing. And now you'll note that Pillow 6.2.2 is installed, but Pillow 6.1 is required here. So we might have an issue with version conflict, but let's see. This does happen a lot in Python, especially in Anaconda, where you have one package which requires a certain version and another package which requires another. So it's not unheard of to have to deal with these problems. Now I also want to look at ProSwap. I'm sort of interested in that because I haven't used that before. Let's see what ProSwap means. It changes it tells ArcGIS which Python. So this final command must tell ArcGIS which version or which environment to use by default. So that will actually change our default. That's awesome. That's very nice. So note that these are comments that I'm writing to myself, like so. All right, and so now I'll pause this and I'll continue on installing the packages. I will uninstall each one, or I will unpause each time I go to install, just to show you the process in case you have any questions. All right, we've completed, and now we'll move to the next one. So that last one was scikit image. I will move to Pillow. Now previously I had mentioned I was worried about the likelihood of a version conflict. So let's see how we're doing here. And the nice thing about Anaconda is that it will tell me if there's any issues. So I don't have to wait for the error message. It will check for me through solving the package specifications. It's a really nice thing about Anaconda. So okay, it'll downgrade it for me. Very nice. Excellent to see that. All right, and so now I can install FastAI. And each time you'll see it'll go through the same thing. It pulls down I think it's a XML or JSON file of the package metadata, what its requirements are, things like that. From there, it will then solve the packages that are required. So because there's all these dependencies and these dependency trees have to be represented in a very efficient way to quickly search through them and figure out what's required and where to get it from as well. And so this can be really challenging. And you can see here that PyTorch is actually quite big. So there's a need to have a good internet connection, where previously my internet connection was quite poor. So that's certainly a issue. All right, and I'll give this a little time to install. So for now, I'll pause it and then continue on. Don't want to make you have to wait with me. All right, and so we've completed this section, installing FastAI. We're going to move to PyTorch now. You'll note I could, if I wanted to, create a script to do this, but I just want to show you line by line to make sure if you're doing this on your own. You can even type these in just by looking at this if you want. And again, it's going through that same process of installing. I'll then have to confirm. I could pass a default yes flag into here so that it will work. Oh, and PyTorch is already installed. Excellent. And finally, we install conda install libtiff with no dependencies. So it goes through that same process each time. Now the last step here that I'll do once this is complete is I will use the proswap command. Now proswap looks to be something, let me click yes, or say yes. Proswap seems to be something specific to ArcGIS. So proswap Python ArcGIS. And so it seems that proswap has to be run here. Proswap deep learning right here. And so proswap, it swaps the default environment. And my guess is it's also, yeah, it's right here. See that? It's changing. This is the proswap bat and py file. So I should be able to just proswap deep learning. Oh, it's not recognized. So whenever that happens, in this case, I know where proswap is. So I need to tell my computer where proswap is in the same way that we did before. And I'm actually not going to tell it whether to use the Python or exe. I just want to see how it works if I just pass it ProSwap. So now I've said go to this location, use this ProSwap, pass in deep learning. Excellent. This looks correct. So note that this is in my local directory. If I were to change this out, I might want to be careful about doing this. Now I'm just going to save this so I can upload it with the video. And I'll put that in the description for you. All right. So now we've moved everything. So now what we'll want to do is open up ArcGIS Pro and make sure that we can see this environment. Now it might take me a little while to load ArcGIS Pro. So what I'll actually do is I'll make a separate video on how to load up ArcGIS Pro and get started with deep learning. But for now, thank you for your attention. We've moved it, and it does say ProSwap has set active ArcGIS Pro environment to this location. And so I feel confident that we can start using ArcGIS Pro. Thanks for watching. Feel free to post any questions you have in the comments below. Happy to help you use deep learning in